In this section, we're going to make sure you are using all of the necessary tools to monitor your website search engine friendliness so you can be alerted if any problems arise. These tools will help ensure search engine bots can access and index your website correctly, as well as ensure you are monitoring the right analytics so you know what's working and what's not working on your website. It's important that you take care of on-site optimization as we discussed in the last section before moving on to future sections so you can maximize your off-site promotional efforts. Google Analytics can be very overwhelming, so I want to take a look at what are the top reports that you should focus on so you know where to find them, so you can make use of all of this valuable information. Let's start with the most obvious. You want to know how much traffic you're getting on a daily basis and where that traffic is coming from. You can obviously get a quick gist of that from your dashboard. But to break that down a little more, let's go to acquisition. And under all traffic, we're going to click on channels. Now you'll see the same graph up here where we can see we got 2 visits on the 21st, up to 32 on the 23rd, back down to 6, and here we're up to 81. So you can see by the day, week or month how much traffic you're getting. If you scroll down, you can see how many other websites are referring traffic to you, how many people are typing in your domain name directly, how many people are coming to your website from paid search. We know that they're doing pay-per-click ads. And what we're focusing here on is organic search. How many people are coming directly from search engines, and then how many people are coming from social media type sites. You can click through on any of these if you want to get more detailed information. So if I click on social, for example, I can see what particular days of visitors came to the website on. So if I am doing a particular campaign, I send out a newsletter, I have an ad out somewhere. This can help you see how much traffic you're getting from that campaign. And you can set up a goal to see how much of that traffic is actually converting for you. If I scroll down, I'll see that the social source is Yelp, which sent me to visitors. And I have a 0% bounce rate, which is really good. So that means I really want to work on Yelp. Although only 2 visits isn't a lot of information, that's showing me that these people are interested in my service. They are actually taking the time to visit 2.5 pages per visit, and they stay on the site for an average of 25 seconds, which we could increase. So you can go through each of those sources and see where people are coming from. If you want to see which keywords people are using to get to your site, you'll want to go back and you can click on organic search, and this is going to give you the keywords here below. Now, since this site is not receiving a lot of traffic, most of them are not provided, you will see some of that regardless of how much traffic you are receiving. And you'll see that other people already know about this particular business. So they are not actually receiving any search engine traffic for other keywords. Now, you also want to pay attention to what your most popular pages are, because that way you know which pages you should focus on first and you can set them up to convert. To do that, you can click on behavior, scroll down to site pages and click on all pages. Now, if we scroll down to the list here, we're going to see that the top pages are the home page, which is this / by far receiving 52% of the visits, followed by this services page, which gets 15% of the visits. So those are the 2 pages that the customer wanted me to focus on, which works out those are the 2 pages that are the most popular on his website. So that is where we should start focusing all of our efforts, because that is what people want to see. But in addition to what are your most popular pages, you also want to know which pages are your top landing pages, meaning when a visitor first comes to your website, what page are they landing on first is very easy to think, oh, everybody comes into the home page. But oftentimes that's not true, especially if you're optimizing multiple pages. Depending on what a user searches for, they may come to a different page. So you want to make sure that that page is set up to convert as well. To do that, again, under behavior, site content, you can click on landing pages and we'll scroll down here and we'll see that again, by far most of the traffic is landing on the home page. But what's interesting here is that people are also landing on the portfolio page and the services page. So I want to go up here to their website and I want to click on their portfolio page. Now I want to think about if I were a visitor and I'm looking for lawn care services. If I came to this page, based on what I see, what I contact them, I don't know, I see a lot of contact information. I may scroll through, but there is nothing on here that is set up to convert. Yes, there's a contact information that is good. That is a way that they can convert, but there's no sidebar. They're not giving anybody any information about their services. It's just purely pictures here. There's no links below here to the contact form. So there's a lot that they could do with this portfolio page to set it up to convert better. So that's where that gives you a lot of good information. Lastly, you want to know what do people click on when they come to your website. And that's what you can do within Page Analytics. So you want to scroll down again under the behavior menu, scroll all the way down. You'll see this in Page Analytics button. Now, this is really neat. There is a Chrome extension that you can download and install, which is great. If you don't have that installed, typically it will show your page here below. Otherwise, it will pop it up in a new window. So let's see what happens here. Alright, we're gonna load this in full view. Now what this is going to do is pop up a little bubble in all these different areas of the website to show you where people are actually clicking. So you'll see here, the services menu gets 44% of the clicks, followed by the portfolio at 16. Over here, the contact gets 9%. Let's scroll down. We see that the get a quote form only gets 9% of clicks. So that tells us that's why we need to bump that up and make that more accessible. So let's go into the services page. Now we see here, they have their quote form at the top now gets 18% of the clicks. So the amount of people that they're getting to click on this quote form is already doubling just because they moved it up. So that is very valuable information. So this can really help you see what visitors do when they come to your site. So this is just a quick intro into the top analytics that you want to pay attention to on your Google Analytics account. Therefore, you start working really hard to send a lot of traffic to your website. You want to take just a quick minute to set up some website analytics to make sure that you're tracking all of your traffic so you can see what's working. So you can do this by setting up a free Google Analytics account. When you go to sign up, you'll enter just your basic website information. Google Analytics will give you a shortcode to place on your website. If you understand website code, then you can certainly place that on your website. If you do not, if you're using a content management system like WordPress, for example, there are tons of plugins that you can install so that you can copy and paste the code within the plugin without having to know any code. Google Analytics is a very powerful tool. You'll be able to see how much traffic is coming to your site, where the traffic is coming from, which of your campaigns are performing the best, what keywords visitors are using to find your site, where your most popular pages are. And you can even create goals such as having a customer complete a form or make a purchase, for example, and see how many people actually complete that goal and how many people started but don't quite finish that goal. There are so many more things that you can find within Google Analytics. And the next lecture, we're going to go into a Google Analytics account and I'm going to show you what are the reports that you want to focus on. Now that we've looked at Google Analytics, I want to talk about Google Webmaster Tools, which is another very useful tool that you absolutely should set up. This is another free Google tool and it helps you see your website as Google sees it increases your chances of being fully indexed and helping it to rank well. If you think about it, if Google is giving you a tool to help you with ranking in their search engine, you should probably use it, and that's why we're going to set it up. To set it up, you simply have to add your site. It's going to give you a few options to verify that you own it. And once you do that, it's going to start populating the data for you within 24 to 48 hours. We can use this tool to see what's getting indexed, what's getting linked to what's receiving traffic, and most importantly, any crawl errors that Google experiences while attempting to access your site. So let's take a look here at some of those. If we go to search traffic, we can click on search queries, and this is going to break down what people are searching for to get to your website. And on the right hand side, it's going to tell you what position you are in Google and how many impressions you're getting and how many clicks, which is very valuable information. Now also, under search traffic, you can go to international targeting. And if you are only targeting visitors from a particular country, you can do that here. You can select the country and you can click save. So this is a local business. So they are only worried about people in the United States because they cannot serve people in other countries. So this can help you rank better. So for instance, if you are in the UK, you can select that from the drop-down menu, and that can help you rank better in google.com.uk. Another important tools under Google Index, you can go down to your index status, and you can see how many pages have actually been indexed by Google. Here, we'll see part of the problem is that we have no pages indexed by Google. And if you saw on the dashboard, they have not added a sitemap, which we're going to talk more about later. And that is going to help Google index pages. But right now, Google has none of these pages on their radar. Also, under search traffic, you can look at links to your sites. There's no data available because this page has not been indexed. And I also know that there's no links. This will help give you a list. If you have anybody who is referring traffic to your site, they have your link on their site. This is where that will show up. Now another very important one is under crawl. You want to look at crawl errors. Here, good news is that there's no errors. However, I don't know how accurate that information is because they don't have any pages indexed yet. So we'll see what happens once they actually crawl it. But this is one of the most important features of Google Webmaster Tools because again, it's going to show you how Google sees your site and if anything, blocks them from seeing it correctly. This is where you're going to find that out. So take a quick minute, set up your Google Webmaster Tools, give it about 24 to 48 hours to start populating the data and then regularly log in and take a look at these top areas here to see how your website is performing or what you may need to tweak. Just like with Google, the search engine, Bing also has a Webmaster Tools account that you can set up. If you're interested and really performing well on the Bing search engine, everyone should sign up for Google Webmaster Tools. But you can choose whether or not you want to sign up for Bing Webmaster Tools. I say it doesn't hurt, it only takes a minute to set up. But I do think your primary focus should be with Google Webmaster Tools. So just like with Google Webmaster Tools, you can add your site, you can verify it, and it has many of the same features that Google Webmaster Tools has. But obviously, the focus is on Bing and how you're performing in that particular search engine. One neat tool that it does have is the Disavow Links, which means if other people are linking to your website and you don't like those links because you feel that they're poor quality, let's say you've hired somebody to do some SEO work for you and they've used some black hat methods, which means they're not doing high quality work. This is where you can go and disavow a link so that it bumps down. It's important so that the search engine knows, okay, you probably didn't want that link. We're not going to give that as much credit. We won't hold that against your site. Basically, you can also connect your other social media pages. Like if you have a YouTube page, a Google Plus account, you can add that in and it will incorporate that data as well. You also be able to take a look at the SEO reports that it has and use their SEO analyzer. That way, you can see specifically what they recommend that you do to rank your site higher. And it will also tell you what work needs to be done on a specific page. So that is very helpful. It's like having your own personal SEO tool available that says do this task. It will help you rank and you can go step by step and make those changes on your site. So that's pretty neat. So if you're interested, go ahead and sign up for Bing Webmaster Tools. Let's talk about what Robots.txt is. And if you even need that on your website, Robots.txt is simply a file that tells search engine robots how to crawl your website and which pages to index. So now we talked about submitting an XML sitemap so that search engines can find all of your pages. However, there may be some directories or particular pages that you do not want search engines to index. And if that's the case, that is when you would use a robots.txt file. But let's say you decide you don't need one. The thing is, you may actually already have one and you just don't realize it. So you want to make sure that it is set up correctly, because if you have perfectly optimized your website but have a robots.txt file that tells search engines not to index any part of your website, you will not receive traffic. So this is important to take a look at, and it really only takes a couple minutes. So let's look at this example. This txt file, it will look something like this. If it has this / right here, this means as far as how in search engines not to index anything on your website. If you simply remove that /, it means they are free to index any page in any directory on your website. So you can see how something so small can make a huge difference. The user agent specifies which robot this information is for. So if you only want Google to read this, or you only want Bing to take this into consideration, this is where you can specify that. However, just leaving this as is, that means any search bot can use this information. So like I mentioned, you may not even need a robots.txt file. So don't panic if you don't have one. But you may want to have one if you have some of that content that I've talked about that you don't want anybody to index. Let's say you have a login form or registration form. Those aren't things you really need indexed in Google. And this is where you can tell Google not to index those particular pages. If you are setting up a website for a client, for example, and you're developing the site live, but you don't want to index until it's fully completed, this is where you can tell search engines not to index that site. But of course, once it's up, you want to make sure you go back and change that. Now there are two ways to determine if you have a robots.txt file. The first is you can simply go to your website domain name and type in /robots.txt. And here it says the file is not found. So that means they don't have one. Another thing that you can do is grab your domain name, and you can go back to this feed the bot tool. This is the robots.txt file tester. What's neat about this page is it's going to go into a little bit more detail about what this file is when you should use it. If you go down about halfway, it says let's determine if you have one. So you can enter your domain name, select go, and it says no, the robots.txt file is not found. So I'm going to try typing in another domain here and seeing if they have an XML file. It says they do have an XML file, and then it's going to display all of the content here. So you see that this is for any search bot they have. This allowed several directories on their website. They don't want search bots to go into WP admin, which is where you would log into a WordPress website. They have a directory called investigation. WordPress includes their work area, which may be where they test out some different things on their website that they don't want live. So you can see anything within these directories will not be indexed. And those are all errors from what I can see, and having worked on lots of WordPress sites, that you do not need to index any of those. So make sure that you take 1 to 2 minutes to check to see if you already have a robots.txt file. If you do, make sure that it is allowing search engines to appropriately crawl your website, and if there's anything that you do not want indexed, make sure that is included here using this setup. An XML sitemap is simply a file that lists all of the pages on your website that helps the search engine web crawlers find all of the pages on your site and see how your website is organized. And it helps them to better crawl your website. Ideally, if you've set up your site pages properly, web crawlers are usually going to be able to discover all of your pages. But even so, a sitemap is going to be particularly helpful because it can prove how they crawl your site. And especially if you have a very large site, this is something that is very important to do. If you have pages that you have not linked to other pages, they will not be found unless you have submitted a sitemap. So that's one of the reasons as well why it's so important to do that. On this XML Sitemap, search engines are also going to find out when you have last updated your website, how often you update your website, and that is information that they use to rank. So it's very important within your Google Webmaster Tools account. This is where you can actually submit a sitemap. Simply by clicking on sitemaps is going to allow you to add a sitemap. If you don't know how to create a sitemap, there is a tool called xml-sitemaps.com, which is a sitemap generator. It's really neat because all you need to do is go down. You can fill out this form. You can simply enter your URL here. You can say how often your website is updated and click start, and is automatically going to generate an XML file for you. You can download that. You need to upload the XML file to your website files, and here you can click add test. You can enter the URL and click submit sitemap, and that's all you have to do to upload it. And this can really help Google and the other search bots find all of the pages on your website, and you have a much better chance of them getting indexed as well. So for this particular website, we've seen that they don't have any pages indexed yet. This is definitely something that would be on the high priority list to do to make sure that their website gets indexed. Also attached to this lecture, some WordPress plugins that you can use to create an XML sitemap as well that can help your site.